Hi, my name is Kim and welcome to a new episode of PwC's Casual Side. We will talk about the process of digital transformation within a company, what impact it has on the workforce, and why upskilling is inevitable in order to get equipped with the right tools for your career development. Create your basket of soft, hard, and digital skills and get a ticket for a prosperous future on your all-once-life journey. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Hello Christian, thank you for joining us today. How are you?
I'm fine, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today.
So we know you as a partner here at PwC Luxembourg, but who are you really? So who is Christian Scharff?
Oh, who is Christian Scharff? That's an interesting one. Well, maybe I'm a father of three, grown up. Part of them already working, some are still studying, and it has been quite a journey and a pleasure. I'm also the happy husband of a yoga teacher.
Oh, really? Cool.
So that's also something interesting. She's waking up every morning very early, doing very interesting stuff. So that's another part of my life. I'm an addict to travel, traveling both for business and leisure. So I'm really kind of enjoying that and visiting some very amazing places like Bhutan or Uruguay or New Zealand. Okay. Things I loved. When I was 20, I was already in China when, it was in 85. So when the country was totally closed, and I went there, of course, many times since. But seeing how
it has changed,
Earth is changing and the countries are evolving, it's just amazing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Due to COVID, you were not able to travel that much.
Oh, that was honestly, that's the biggest pain.
Yeah. I can understand. I hope we will be back soon to traveling.
Yeah, hope so.
And since when have you started to work for PwC? Maybe just giving a little bit of professional background as well.
Professional background. So I can give you that in 3 minutes because that's maybe it's going to be a good match also to the topic we are talking about. I joined the army at 14. I left the army at 25. And I graded from the military school as an officer, blah, blah, blah. So that finished in 25 because I decided to quit. And I've been lucky to find a position as an HR manager at the time already, at 25, in a pharmaceutical company. Then I did some additional degrees. And at 30, I moved to a company in industrial automation.
Yes.
With an EMEA position. Did that for 3 years. And I quitted that job and I became a car dealer. I took over the family business from my father-in-law. I did that for 3 years, and then I came back for HR.
That is not a typical career like we would have here.
Indeed.
Somebody from PwC. It's
Indeed.
very interesting.
Yeah. And then I went into banking as the head of business partner for BIL. 2 years afterwards, I was head of HR and then ExCo member. I did that for 9 years, and I joined PwC 11 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. And I worked in Luxembourg. I've been partially working for France as a head of consulting for the regions and also P&O, People and Organization Leader. And then I developed everything related to the HRIS, Information System offer for France and Luxembourg. And and here I am.
And you're originally from France?
I'm Belgian.
You're Belgian.
I'm Belgian, but I'm, from my mother terrace, we are in Belgium and we are overlooking France and Luxembourg. Mm-hmm. So that's really, this corner of the three frontiers. Yes. Yeah.
And why did you choose to come to Luxembourg? Like, what was your main reason?
Oh, it was by just coincidence. I was doing my career in Paris and in Brussels. We were about to move to the US. And then that was that call from my father-in-law when I was 33 asking me support for the family business, which we decided to do with my wife because at the time already I was traveling every day. You see, there is kind of a logic. And I decided the kids were small. Well, it might be good to be a little bit around for a few years. And so I decided to go for the family business. And actually, I haven't been traveling for 2-3 years there. And I was just here at the border. And when that part of the business was over or getting to the end, I was just close to Lux. So I just reached out to a few headhunters. And I got some proposals immediately. And since I'm here, it's 20 years now. Yeah.
And you're happy to be here since for 20 years?
Well, it's an interesting place. Luxembourg, from the outside, many people are kind of looking this as a teeny place and kind of a lost place, actually. but it's the center of Europe and it's highly international. There is a lot of things to do. Everything is there. Usually when you get here, it's very hard to get out.
And since when have you been interested in anything related to digitalization?
Well, actually, very early on. I think we started getting in there when I was in my 30s. So, in the mid-90s, I would say. We started getting into IT, HRIS system digitization already at the time. When in the early 2000s it increased, then I got into HRIS already at the time. In my positions, I was already in charge of the Shared Services Center for the banking group I was working with. I was in charge also of the deployment of their HRIS system at the time. And this is honestly early 2000s. So it's close to 20 years now that I'm really kind of swimming in that area. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when you think of back at that time in the 90s, early 2000s, when you were thinking of digitalization, it was always in your mind like HR digitalization, or was it rather broad and wide?
Oh, it's much broader because, I told you I was working in the late 90s in an industry automation company. Mm-hmm. And, when I was visiting factories at the time, everything was... we were enabling companies or factories to be automatized. Yes. So in the beginning, it was really kind of hardware business. But already in the late 90s, we were really kind of looking the shift towards software already. Mm-hmm. And so it was really a mix between hardware and software and smart robots already starting, late yes. 90s. So already at the time, it was very clear in my mind that that would change dramatically in the years. I'm a little bit surprised. By the way, it was not faster.
Okay.
So some people look at this saying, wow, it's already
yes.
fast. Honestly, it took time. It took time to get here. But what I've seen over the last 20 years is that there is a curve of the acceleration, which mm-hmm. is honestly now really picking up. Mm-hmm. It took most likely up to 2015 something to really kind of accelerate. Mm-hmm. But now the acceleration is there, and COVID is really kind of giving a push to yes. that, which is amazing. Yeah.
So 20 years ago, you were thinking it would look maybe another way, and now that you're looking back to it, was it like your expectations? Because you said it has taken a longer time. But is it something you had already in your mind imagined that it would look like, and now you see it, what it is concrete?
Well, I think you tend maybe sometimes to be a little bit too pessimistic with regards to the place of human being in the value chain. And when you look at all that automation in the late 90s, when we were looking at automated factories, some people were figuring out, factories almost without human beings. Uh-huh. Well, that's not the mm-hmm. case. Of course, there are less, but you need to think about all the automation and all the things which are in factories also need to be maintained, created, produced, blah, blah, blah. So all in all, what we see, and maybe that's a good surprise, and it's really kind of confirmed by all the studies, surveys, data that we have, is that the average employment level has not decreased at all. It keeps increasing, actually. And that's I think, something I was maybe too pessimistic about 25 years ago when I was looking at those factories being automated. I clearly see that people are still on the floor shop, more specialized, doing less painful jobs. Mm-hmm. So basically, there is more added value jobs on the floor shop with less pain, mm-hmm. less weight to carry, less embarrassing positions or hurting positions. So basically, we are doing better with less on the factory floor, but we are doing more on the site. And in the offices, that's an interesting one. We've seen a very slow pace, actually. Again, up to it's 15, 18, in my opinion. Of course, we moved from telex to PC, to TC, to tablets, to home office, to home office, to a part. But I think the real acceleration came the last 2 years and certainly the last year. And that's going to be a clear milestone in the evolution of all those systems. That's really where we see all those CRM coming. We see all those accesses or interface between users and companies. We see electronic commerce picking up, and all of this is coming at the same time. And it has a lot to do with the also not only people may say it's the crisis enables. It's of course an accelerator. It has a lot to do with the capacity of technology, the chip capacity, the AI, which is now coming into play, the smartness and user friendliness of products, which are now coming into the play. So that's really where we see now the acceleration coming up. Yeah, and I think there is little way out. I mean, we are in that game now.
Yeah, I mean, when we come to digital transformation, I also have a quote here from Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon. He said, "There is no alternative to digital transformation. Visionary companies will carve out new strategic options for themselves. Those that don't adapt will fail." Do you think he's right with that quote?
It's very bold. I mean, clearly, it's kind of you go that route or you're dead. I was yesterday reading my wine magazine and looking at those very famous producer who are keeping away from selling their wines on internet, who are doing bio to the extent, not using any of those digital technologies. So you see there is still some room there for systems aside. Is that going to be the exception? To a certain extent, yes. Because when you look at the mass of what's currently happening, I mean, it's going to be a 95-5 at the end of the day.
And where do we have the line?
I think it's really, there will be some clients, I'm going to put it that way. Maybe in 5 years' time, when you're going to order a taxi, you're going to pay a premium to have a driver. Okay? Because you want to be served by humans.
Yes.
And you might be paying an extra for that. But still, there is digital in the play because you're going to order for a human. You see what I mean?
Yes.
There will be that threshold at once where we want this. There will be also something to do with generations because obviously it's going to take time to get the population up to speed. Statistics are not that amazing on the digitization of the overall population. Some stats are showing that 45% of the population, by the way, in Europe, but also in the US, are illiterate with regard to digital. Illiterate, it means they just can't turn on a PC, they just can't go on internet banking. 45% is gigantic, So it's not because you have a smartphone that you are literate,
Yes. Indeed, that's true. And what impact will it have on the workforce?
Well, that's of course something central in this discussion, I guess. It has a huge impact. I've been telling you about my career. I've been changing jobs many times. I was looking this morning about a resume on LinkedIn about a friend I have for since I'm young, and she's with the same employer doing the same job. And I was thinking for myself, wow, 30 years in the same company doing the same job.
And what was your thought?
And my thought was, this is already an exception. Now, this is already an exception. It used to be our parents having the same jobs forever, I think for our kids, not only they won't have the same employer, but they most likely won't have the same job. I mean, because maybe their job will be gone as such. And so they will be forced not only to change employer, maybe, but to really change job, and go to a totally different orientation. That's why learning is such an important topic. And, maybe in my generation, we were learning at university and then you were good to go for a career. Your generation, I hope you don't think the way, because my thing is, my thoughts are, you will have to relearn 2, 3, 4 times different things, and not really learn on the job, a little bit gradually. You will have to make efforts during your career to make some some jumps to really acquire new skills, enabling you to go to the next step. The next step being maybe another job from another category. And yeah, that's the way it works. I can share a very personal example. I have a daughter. She studied law and HR. She had a job in an HR department in the bank. She was settled. Okay.
Yes.
And she decided to change it completely. And now she's a professional pastry cooker.
Wow.
She's 27. Only in that little amount of time, she's been totally changing career.
Yes.
So I think that's going to be not the rule, but it might give some inspiration to many people. And we see more and more in career tracks, people changing career tracks on their 50s, going back to something more manual, you see in the Nordics, people, they keep being occupied with jobs which are nothing to do with what they did in their career, but just to have an occupation.
Yeah, I have listened to a podcast some days ago, and it was mentioning about everything because I'm somebody who believes in relationships. Is it in personal life or at work? And there was something mentioned, what I found quite interesting. It was like people at a job, they're also looking for relationships at the job, meaning that I want to have an impact, I want to have a meaningful job and not just do it like, I've done it for 20 years as you were mentioning it, and that's how our parents have done it, staying in one company. They're looking for something else as well. And especially the younger generation, with all what is going on, environmental impact, COVID, all of this, what has happened, digital transformation, I think it will change even more, and like people will look even more, where can I find myself in which spot and direction? And then comes to the point, as you've mentioned, I think, what do I have to do in order to get there? Like, where do I have to upskill myself or not? In terms of what is a changement?
There is this gigantic wave coming of change in the workforce. And to cite some items, you've got the demographics. People tend to forget, but we are in demographic decline. Switzerland entered this year officially in demographic decline. So there are more people exiting the work market than people entering it. It's already the case in Germany and in many countries, it's already the case. In Japan, they are losing 400,000 workers every single year. Well, this is the equivalent of the whole working population of Luxembourg.
Yes. Well, yeah, that's
so
true.
One Luxembourg is exiting the market in Japan every single year. So demographics. The second topic will be, the way of working. So basically, freelancer or employee?
Yes.
I mean, in the US, this freelancer trends is just gigantic. In the tech area, it's close to 50% of employees or people working in tech are self-employed. It's gigantic. And it's coming really slowly in Europe, but it's coming, And then you've got all you mentioned rightly about the purpose, the values, Mother Earth, impact, why, we want, what I'm doing needs to have a meaning,
a reason,
a reason, the purpose of doing this. And you see a lot of young people getting interested in all those positions for CSR and SDGs, and it really is raising a lot of interest. You see it's picking up now in finance because of regulation. But more generally speaking, I mean, all that greenwashing that happens in the past is now very difficult to manage for companies who've been playing that game. You need to be genuine. What you are playing internally should be reflecting what you're playing externally. Otherwise, I mean, with social media today, you're trapped immediately. So that's going to be a very important game. And the attractiveness of employer will be a mix of what's my business model, how fast I can give, I can keep learning in that company, how interesting is the job, what's the value which are underneath, what's the autonomy I have, what's relationship I can create, is the environment.
It's very complex. It is very complex.
And you're going to have the 50, 60 plus in the company, and you're going to have the 20, 25 living together, not having the same expectations.
Exactly.
So honestly, HR director and HR these days is not an easy job, for sure.
And when it comes to upskilling, so who's responsible for digital upskilling? Is it the government? Is it the company, the employer? Who is it? Or is it a combination?
I think the three of them. I would say, honestly, first, don't count on others to get the job done. I mean, it's your own responsibility.
Yes.
I mean, always looking for myself. I'm still studying today. You know, I'm still not forcing me because I mean.
No, it's a beautiful journey. I think
you need to do it.
That,
you know,
yeah.
and even digitization, I keep taking. Weeks left and right to make sure that I'm up to date. That I'm kind of.
How do you do
challenged?
This? How do you do this?
Well, I'm just surfing, and we always, I think, each individual has his reference model. We all have our history as well, and so basically your network is feeding you with some stuff. Of course, I'm in this digital environment for years now, and so I'm looking at best-in-class places where I can get some hints. So personally, I like working with INSEAD, with IMD, this kind of business schools which are feeding me. Podcast, also online training for technical stuff. So it's a mix. Is
there a magazine, something like this? I even don't know.
Online, not really hard paper on technology. Not really. But I think staying up to date personally is the first maybe duty of anyone. Then, of course, if you look, the second layer is the company. I mean, when you're looking at the ecosystem where we have basically less and less people that will be available, the most important assets a company has today are the people who are currently working in my company. So if I would be a CEO today, I would look at that asset like something extremely valuable. We take as granted that anyone is replaceable. Yeah. Well, maybe, but less and less so. Okay, so we made the computation. It costs infinitely less to upgrade, to upskill people in your own company than to try to find a replacement. When you look at that, it's infinitely less. The opportunity cost when you lose someone, the time to hire, the time to onboard, all the business you're losing because the person is not there, the overtime you are obliging for the other one, which maybe, again, are provoking some departures. When you are computing this all, and you compare it with the cost of upskilling and freeing up someone for a few weeks to get that person upgraded, it's really cheap. But it requires vision to get there. So it's a change, it's a mentality shift that we are looking at. So company, clearly, they have an interest there. And of course, at the upper level, the state, the authorities, so to speak, the public bodies. Today, we have a gigantic social challenge. When you look at all those jobs that are automated now, we are more talking about a job which are hitting the middle class, so to speak. Because for usually jobs which are too low, maybe AI costs still too much. And for jobs which are too high, it is not yet there, okay? So all the jobs related to accountancy, easy tasks to perform in factories, these are where, most of the people are working. So which means we have the highest volume of people also doing that jobs, that kind of jobs. Which means if those guys are pushed out of the market, what do we do? Yes. It's going to cost a fortune and gigantic effort to reskill those people if we are allowing them to exit the labor market. So it's going to be infinitely cheaper for states to fund, to incentivize company to upskill people of that kind, which are the majority, when they are on the job, but to wait they are getting out. Because that's going to be much more difficult to organize.
But also in terms of schools, maybe? What do you think? Another very big topic. I see your face.
The alignment of the programs in schools versus what's really needed on the market is really frightening in some areas. I'm contacted by some governments, and I will of course not disclose any name here, but which are really telling me, for instance, in that kind of technical training, we know, government speaking, we know that 80% of the students going out of that kind of education don't find a job because the education they get are not suited for the labor market.
Yes.
80%.
Yes.
But why are they spending 3 years studying something
Very
which is
good
useless?
question.
Why do we pay teachers who are teaching something which is outdated? Wow, this is a hard one. And we are talking to usually a word which is sometimes a little bit rigid, not moving fast. And so that's going to be a difficult one to crack, but that's mandatory.
Yes.
That's mandatory. And we see, that's why also you have so many models of online universities picking up. Okay. And when you look in the US, the investment in content for learning and training for the last years has just peaked enormously. I mean, all investors see that the future is there. So I would be really worried if I would be in the classical environment or of learning. I would be really worried if nothing happens in my environment, because that means I would be hit very hard time by digitization in the years to come.
And together with Laurent Probst, you have created the upskilling program here at PwC Luxembourg. So could you just introduce us the program? What is it about?
Yeah. So that's a journey. Let's put it that way. With Laurent, we were discussing with the Luxembourgian authorities, I think 4 or 5 years ago, and Minister of Labour at the time has a vision that, as you just explained, it was much better to maybe give a chance for people to be upskilled in the workplace instead of coming to an employment office, where we all know it's more difficult to organize. And so he put us a challenge basically to find a way to offer companies a way to upskill their people. And there we were facing multiple difficulties. The first one being a very basic one: do we know what's going to happen to people? So basically, if I'm looking at you, what's going to happen to your job in 1 year time? Do we know it? Well, actually, if you ask the question, normally you should be able to answer for your job. The problem is, if I put myself at PwC level, you are 1 out of 3,000.
Yes.
So if I'm asking Lieven, our HR director, Lieven, do you know what's going to happen to the 3,000 Kims? He's going to have an issue because most likely he doesn't know. And actually, when we were asking the question to the HRDs on the marketplace, for most of them, to the huge majority of them, they didn't know. So the first homework is to figure out what's going to happen to my jobs, not my people, my jobs 1 year down the road. And the 1 year is important because 1 year is most likely the only horizon we can skill forecast. Okay. 5 years, nobody knows. 3 months is too short because you don't have the time to organize anything. Okay. So 1 year is possible. When you have that, you have another difficulty. Do you know, we know what all your skills are, all your capabilities?
I don't think so.
You don't think so. Do you think the same for you? No, not for you neither. I'm talking to the guy taking the sound, guys. But he's just nodding negatively.
It's Antoine.
So we don't know. So how can we assess whether you would be able to go for the next job if we don't know you? So the next difficulty was to assess people's skills. And here again, on the hard skills and the soft skills.
Yes.
Okay? So an additional difficulty. When you have that, you think, okay, I know Kim's capacity, and I know the Kim's capacity of the 3,000, and I know the jobs 1 year down the road. So I'm done.
Let's do it.
But it doesn't work
easy,
because if I know the 200 jobs that will really change in the 12 months to come, because that's the proportion. Usually it's 10-15% max. Okay. So if I know those 300 jobs changing, I need to compare the job holders' capacities with those 300 jobs. When you do it for a couple of jobs, you may figure out around the table. We can have a long meeting and figure out, When you do it for 300 people,
3,000,
30,000, a million,
crazy.
Doesn't work. So you need something to compute and to match basically between people's capacity and future jobs. And then when you're there, you think, I'm done. No, you're not. Because basically you might figure out that Kim can take that job at the condition she's learning something in addition to be upskilled. But what does she need to learn? And then you need to create that many individual training paths to allow all of you to take the next job.
Yes. And then we have to really do it and then reevaluate, I guess, to see really
you see the chain. You see the chain. So basically, the first thing, figure out what are the jobs which are going to change in the next 12 months. Figure out which are the skills of the people whose job will be either disappearing or augmented. And then matching those people with the future jobs. And then understanding what is the skills gap. And from that skills gap, finding the right training program for individual. Well, actually, this is it. This is what we created.
Yes.
We created that journey electronically.
How long has it taken to come there? I'm very curious, but just for myself.
Well, we deployed in Luxembourg what we would call not even an MVP, a first set of systems during the first 2 years. Mm-hmm. Okay, and we did it live, but it was still at the time using the tools but manual. Mm-hmm. And today we fully automatized it. Yes. Okay, we recreated a new UX user interface, which is unique for the whole platform. We put it on the cloud, so everything now is finished. But it took us 4 years. Wow. 4 years to get there. Yes. Yeah. And basically, maybe this is an important one, if I may. It's what skills, because people. That
would be my next question.
Oh, but go ahead then.
So we're all talking about those digital skills, but what about hard skills or soft skills?
Well, that's a good question, and there is clearly a myth to kill here about digital skills only. That's not the case. If you look at your skills portfolio, I mean, basically digital skills accounts for 20-25%, soft skills for maybe 40%, hard skills for 40%. And maybe for auditors, digital skills would be ability to work with softwares, to manipulate computing system, to work on, online banking, this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Soft skills is really about ability to talk in public, to communicate, to connect, to present, to socialize, to work in teams, blah, blah, blah. And the hard skills would be, I know about crafting wood, I know about crafting stone, electricity, law, all material which is really kind of called hard, yes. Mathematics, whatever, yes. And today, really, this is what we see in the portfolio we are looking at also for individuals when you need to change job. Mm-hmm. When you hit the button basically and you are crafting a program for someone to be upskilled, this is kind of the proportion we find back. And the importance of soft skills is really critical. In this world where we are all connected, but also working remote for a part, the ability to connect, to work in teams remotely, etc., is critical, is really critical. And so soft skills are really, really important. Interact with clients more and more. Mm-hmm. There are more and more jobs which are in direct connection with clients. Mm-hmm. And, connecting with clients is not that easy, actually. Some are very kind, some are demanding, challenging,
Who said
upset.
That it's easy?
Yeah, so that's a job on its own, it's really it takes to call a few call centers to kind of realize that when you are at the end of the menu with dial 1, dial 2, dial yes. 3, and then when you dial 3 and then you 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you finally get the operator, you're already upset, Yeah. So no, digital skills are important, but soft skills and hard skills are even more important these days. Yeah.
Do you think maybe in the future it could be an idea to have, in order to have like separation of hard skills, soft skills, and digital skills, that universities could offer these kind of different classes?
Well, I think the programs have to be balanced. We have to create and maintain complex profiles which are able to deal with, at least at the minimum level, with the triangles, being the digital, being the soft and the hard. Clearly, soft skills today maybe are developed, or they are developed maybe more in the Anglo-Saxon world because they are working a lot with group work, making students working together. And if I'm looking at the UK or the US systems, most of it is about working and delivering work and homework and group work and use cases, which is really kind of pushing your soft skills, because you are obliged to work with students which are not responsive or which are not willing or which are absent, and you have to find ways to persuade people because you have no authority. Yes. And so I think maybe those systems are more pushing on the soft skills. Western systems are more usually pushing on the hard skills. Yes. We are kind of obliged to swallow a gigantic amount of material, but less on the soft skills. And I think today there is no choice for students but to go on digital, because, I mean, of course, that generation, that's kind of easy.
It is a digital native one, yes.
But the thing and the challenge is not to create those profiles or to train them.
Yes.
I think the challenge will be to maintain those profiles. Mm-hmm. And I think for anyone today in the marketplace, my advice would be, don't be lazy. Don't rest on your laurels. I mean, it's not because you are comfortable in your job today. If you start being in cruising mode, it means an alarm bell should ring saying, oh, if I'm in cruising mode, maybe I should be looking not about another job, but about maybe new skills, new stuff to do. Mm-hmm. How may I improve basically my skills belt, my skills profile, so that I'm kind of can move ahead and whenever, my personal rule has always been, in a day, if ever I start looking at my watch thinking, oh, it's only 4:00, it means danger. Mm-hmm. It means danger. So always follow that rule.
And last question for today. So when we talk about future generations and their career opportunities, is there anything you would like to recommend them?
Work with passion. I mean, honestly, I know we all need to work for a living, but the most important part is you need to enjoy what you do. If you don't enjoy what you do, you won't do it for long, and you most likely won't do it to the level which is expecting from you. It's a matter of respect also for who you are. If you don't enjoy what you do, if you really don't like what you do, look for something else. Life is short and long. It's going to be short because I can tell you, I'm going to turn 56 this year. So I see 40 years down the road. Mm-hmm. Already, my goodness, it has been so fast. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's going to be long. Because clearly you will have most likely to retrain, to relearn, to re-challenge yourself more than what I did, more than what most of the people having my age today did. So it's going to be very difficult to do that if you don't like what you do. So look for something you really like, for which you have passion, and whenever you look at your watch or whenever you have the feeling you're in cruising mode, just make sure that it's an alarm for you and that you are going to look around about training, skills, new things to do, enhance your profile, and get ready for the next jump, because there will be one, for sure.
Thanks a lot.
My great pleasure.
Bye-bye. That's it for today's episode. If you don't want to miss out on our upcoming stories, hit subscribe, feel free to share, and let us know what you think. Thank you for listening, and see you for the next episode of PwC's Casual Side.